Next speaker, first speaker of the afternoon, of the day. I've been told that this information is all been fabricated by his wife, but I believe it's true. I know he's a builder by vocation and by avocation. He's a Meherabad historian. Meherabad when Meherabad's old disciples were still alive. And I can tell you from personal experience, he's a wonderful, wonderful man and a wonderful speaker. Please welcome Peter Nordeen.
Oh. Can we bring some of the house lights down so that you can see the images more clearly? How do we do that? Okay. Hope you can see well in the back. It's as much as we can give you here. Yeah, maybe, Phil, can we do that? Can we switch this off? Okay. All right. Meherabad is a very vast subject to cover in a short time. So in the limited time, we're not going to do that. Wouldn't be fair. You would miss mostly the great atmosphere, the flavor of the story of Meherabad. But we have to start from the beginning. So we'll begin and see how much we can cover in this limited time. This first photograph from David Fenster's collection was taken on the 4th of December, 1899. This man here, next image, Glenn, is Kaikushu Sarosh-Irani. Next image, Glenn. Next image. It's the close-up. Kaikushu Sarosh-Irani was married to a woman named Gul. They were the parents of Rustam and Adi, two of the early Mandali men with Baba. They were not, none of the children were born yet at this time. He's leaning on the shoulder of his father, Sarosh, who came from Iran. He was a disciple of Bapu Saheb, a perfect one of his generation who lived in Ahmednagar. Next image, Glenn. This is the only photograph we have of Bapu Saheb. Now we'll go back to the first image. This man is also named Kaikushu. He was married to the sister of the other Kaikushu named Gulnar. They were the parents of Sarosh, another one of the early Mandali men. Everybody get that? Anybody get that? Pardon? This one. Okay? Sarosh's father. Yeah. Now it's time to introduce another important personality of the early history for Meherabad. From what we can tell, this is, in this photograph we have the only image of the saint Upasi Maharaj. I mean, what did I say? Gilori Shah. Somebody asked me something? Okay. The Saint Gilori Shah. Next. Glenn, the fourth image. You know he was a personal cook of Queen Victoria. When she died, he came to India and settled in Ahmednagar. He was also a close friend of the family of Kaikushu and Gulmai. Okay. Back to the first image, Glenn. Second, let's go to the second image. During World War I, a quarantine camp for POWs was built 6 miles south of Ahmednagar, near the village of Arangan, on land that had been leased from a few of the local farmers. Kaikushu, with his close connections to the British, supplied incandescent light bulbs and other things to this camp while it was in operation, which was less than 2 years when the war ended in 1918. When the camp was vacated, the remaining contents and most of the components were auctioned off there. Kaikushu also had a role in that. From what I could surmise from the available records, it seems that the farmers who had leased that land had borrowed money from Kaikushu during that period, and in a debt repayment plan over the next few years, he came into legal possession of the property. Let's go, Glenn, to the image of the tank. On that property, this one's good. Okay. As you can see, the property was mostly barren except for these neem trees along the roadside that were mature at that time, and 4 buildings that remained from the camp. There were 3 along the roadside where the camp was situated, and this one on a hill to the west about a quarter mile away, across the railway tracks. This was a double water tank, one to the east, one to the west. This room was the valve man's room. The valve man would signal the pump man at the well by the river near Arangan, about a half mile away. When these tanks were full to the level just below these ventilator windows, the water would be turned off. The tank would supply water to the camp below through a pipeline by gravity, and with an elevation difference of 50 feet, they had good pressure. It was really a very practical and clever way to allow them to live there through those hot, dry months in that climate. Next image. This photograph was taken probably during the first half of 1923. Kaikushu, Gulmai, and their 2 daughters, Dali and Peroja. If this was before the end of April 1923, then Rustam and Adi would have still been in Manzalimim with Baba. In 1919, Gulmai became totally devoted to Upasni Maharaj, and it was at his ashram in Sikori where she first met his special disciple, Meherabad. A few years after that, Meherabad, then Meher Baba, told Gulmai that her role was to be his spiritual mother. And sometime soon after that, Upasni Maharaj himself told Gulmai that Meherabad is now your master. Serve and obey him, and take his counsel in all your personal affairs. After World War I, Gilori Shah requested Kaikushu and Gulmai to give him a plot on that property of theirs near Arangan. He said, I plan to retire. I don't need much space, just enough to lie down, maybe a little more. But they were reluctant to give him anything because of the general attitude in their Zoroastrian community about these spiritual personalities. The Zoroastrian culture did not have a tradition of mystical personalities, and they generally regarded them as charlatans. And now, to make things worse, next image, Glenn, they had this young man from their own community who was claiming to be divine. He was shamelessly colluding with these persons from other religions, and it seemed he must have made some secret deal with them, some arrangement. They would support each other and perpetrate their fraud on the guileless persons who would be there. Let's go back to the other image. But one night, not long before this photograph was taken, Gulmai had a dream. And in that dream, she was holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. When she uncovered the baby's face, she saw that it was Gilori Shah, who said to her, Mother, I am so tired, and you still haven't given me my place to rest. When she woke up, she informed Kaikushu of her dream, and he said, This is a definite sign. We have to give him what he wants now. Gulmai said, nevertheless, I'll talk to Meherabad about it and we'll abide by whatever he says. The next day, Gilori Shah went to the property at Arangang, got down from the Tanga with some of his followers, walked a few paces to that spot, and declared, my tomb shall be here. His followers looked at each other and said, one of them said, Hazrat, this place is abandoned and desolate. Why do you want your dargah to be here? We'll give you the choice of the finest garden spots in Ahmednagar. People will enjoy going there. And this is so far away from the city. Who is going to make the effort to come to a place like this? Gilori Shah said, I don't care about that. You people are like children. You have no idea what this place will become. In the future, it is going to be owned by the whole world. Because the Great One is coming here. He used the words Baraseb, which means like big boss. He said, the Baraseb is coming here. He said something very poetic. Whenever he walks by, the dust from his feet will fall upon my tomb. Next image. Or back, next image, Glenn, please. Baba's birthday was celebrated at Manzalimim in Bombay in February 1923. The next day was the formal engagement of Rustam to Freni, Mera's sister. And afterwards, Gulmai was sitting with Baba, and Baba said, I'm going to shut down Manzalimim. I want to find a nice place in the country. I've got all these young men with me, and they need hard work and fresh air. Gulmai said, we had this property near Ahmednagar. Gilori Shah says it's a good place. He told me that I should bring Upasti Maharaj and Meherabad there. And Baba seemed indifferent. I may or may not go. Anyway. And she said, speaking of Gilori Shah, for the past 4 years, he's been asking us to give him a plot on that property. Baba, without hesitation, said, you give him whatever he wants and make sure Kaikushu pays for it all. There was a reason behind that, too. But. So the plan was that someday after the wedding of Rustam and Freni, which was scheduled for May 9th in Ahmednagar, Gulmai would bring Baba the property and show him that. When Kaikushu and Gulmai returned to Ahmednagar, they informed Gilori Shah about the decision, final, and he said, do it quickly. I want it done and prepared before he comes here. So that was done. Meantime, in Bombay, Baba was telling the young men, we're going to shut down Manzalimim and go to the country somewhere. The next phase of life with me is going to be rigorous labor. Some of you may not be suitable for that, so think twice and decide whether you're willing to stay with me or not. Manzalimim was closed down. They came to Ahmednagar April 20th. Baba and the Mandali that were with him then stayed in a place called Kushru Quarters, which was a supply depot compound that Kaikushu had leased from the government. Baba stayed in seclusion there in one room for a week. And after that, he took some of the Mandali and went to Happy Valley, a place near the Pimpalgaon Lake Reservoir north of Ahmednagar. They were there for some days. Baba and the men celebrated Upasi Maharaj's birthday there. Let's go to the next photograph, Glenn. This is actually taken in October 1923, but for the purposes of our explanations, it's good. Sitting here in front of Baba's Adi. This is Rustam, and this is their cousin Sarosh. I won't give you more information than that right now. Happy Valley, that trip was where Pendu and Padri got their nicknames. You can understand why Baba gave nicknames to so many people. Often they had the same names. They celebrated Upasi Maharaj's birthday there at Happy Valley by feeding the local poor people on May 3rd. Baba was anxious, though, to get back to Ahmednagar, so they left before midnight and walked the 10 miles back to Kushu quarters. The relatives and friends had already been arriving for the big wedding celebration in 5 days, and many of them were also staying in the Kushu quarters compound. The next morning, May 4th, Baba was already a bit irritated because Gulmai had not returned from Sikori, where she had gone with some of the other followers of Baba to celebrate Upasi Maharaj's birthday. So that morning, while Adi was helping Baba wash, he mentioned to Baba that there had been slander in the compound behind his back, instigated mostly by Gulmai's brother. Bob apparently just told Adi, just sit here, wait for your mother, it seems. And he walked away without saying anything. The Mandali had a standing order in those days that they had to follow Baba wherever he went immediately. So the word went out quickly, and the Mandali dropped whatever they were doing, grabbed their clothes, dressed, running after Baba, and he kept walking without saying anything towards the station. They thought they were leaving town. But at the station, Baba turned south and walked another 5 miles. The neem tree near the original well then had a stone parapet around the base of it. And as Baba approached that property with Arangaon in the distance, he sat on the stone parapet here to the east side in the shade. The men gathered around. He said, looks like a nice well here. And he said, look over there. There's someone's tomb is there, has been prepared, but no occupant yet. So, of course, they walked away from town without having breakfast, no water. This was the middle of the summer. It was already hot. Baba sent Slamson, Gustaji's brother, and Beramji, his first disciple, to Arangaon to get a bucket with a rope so they could draw water from the well and see if they could get anything to eat. They ran into an old carpenter on the road, and he gave them a bucket with on a rope. And he told them the only thing we have here in the village I could get for you would be bakri. You know, bakri is that unleavened sorghum millet grain bread. It's what the poor people in the villages, the farmers eat. So they got the bucket, refreshed themselves, drew water, drank. In the meantime, the watchman of the property showed up and informed them that the property belonged to Kaikushru Irani in Nagar. Mandali were surprised that Baba went there without apparently knowing where it was. The breakfast came. And also at the same time, Rustam showed up on his motorcycle, frantic and anxious. Why did you leave? You walked away without saying. Mom said, we won't stay where we're not welcome. But you came here for the wedding. Aren't you going to attend the wedding? He said, I've changed my mind. Rustam's frantic. He says, I only promised to get married because you promised you would attend the wedding. That's it. I'm not getting married. Forget it. Baba calmed him down and said, it's my wish that you and Franny get married. I don't want to cause trouble there. I'll stay away. I'll see you after you get married, and I'll bless your marriage. Don't worry about it. In the meantime, send our luggage out here. We'll stay here out of the way. So that was done. The first day they spent looking over the property, assessing what was there, making a list of supplies and tools they might need, because the plan was to tidy up the property. The first night was spent sleeping under this tree and around this well because they had decided they were going to occupy this building, a post office near the railway, and some work had to be done to get that prepared. So that afternoon and that evening, the next day also, they prepared the post office before they moved into it. That first evening, the old carpenter from Arangon brought Baba a kerosene lamp to use. And Baba said, "Your house will always have light." That man became Baba's first disciple from Arangon and his first Christian disciple. He spent so much time at Meherabad. The days went by. Baba did attend the wedding, not attend the wedding. He was in town for the wedding. He stayed in a cupola of a tower on the top floor of Gulmai and Kaikushu's home. The Mandali occupied the top floor. They stayed out of the way. If you see the photographs taken at the wedding, you won't see any of the Mandali there. But nevertheless, they wanted to make them welcome. Music was brought. Baba enjoyed some good Qawwali music and all that. But again, that talk against Baba was going on. Gulmai's brother openly said to them, both of Kaikushu and Gulmai, "You made a big mistake. You led him onto your property there. You watch now, he's going to usurp that property." And Gulmai would say, "How is it usurping if we want him there?" Anyway, Baba got fed up again, told the Mandali, "Pick up your bags, we're leaving." They walked to Dharamshala near the station, and of course that typical thing with Baba, plans are always in flux. That was going on. Kaikushu came there the next day and said, "I apologize for the treatment you and your people have received here. It wasn't fair. I'm sorry. Feel free to make use of the property." Baba told him, "I don't want to come between you and your relations and cause bad feelings. Better we just go away from here." Kaikushu said, "I don't care about those relations. I care about Gulmai. And now she's absolutely upset about this whole situation. We're asking you please to go and use the property." So Baba was touched, and they returned to Meherabad. It wasn't Meherabad yet, though. They returned to the property and continued the renovation, the refurbishing, I should say, of that building over here, which was a mess quarter building, mess hall during the military camp days. That went on for some days. During that period, let's go to the next image, Glenn. This is that building in 1935. So this was the building they were refurbishing. This was taken from the east, and you can see the tank room on the hill in the background. Now let's go to the next image. This is a nice photograph of Gulmai and Baba's mother, Shireen Mai, from that period. During that period, on May 19th, Mera, her mother, Gulmai, Shireen Mai, one of Shireen Mai's sisters, Mera's sister Franey, came to Meherabad, Mera for the first time, and for the first time she bowed down to Baba also. That all happened in the post office building. But they were there for a particular reason. Mera did not attend the wedding of her only sister, which was also a sore spot with the family. What happened is she had been living in Sakori for a few months, doing menial labor with the nuns there, building up the ashram, and somehow a few days before she was scheduled to go to the wedding, she had injured her knee. It swelled up a little, and Upasi Maharaj said, "I can't let this girl travel." No, she can't leave. She has to stay here. But there was another issue. What was behind it? One of the relatives from Pune had a nephew who was after Mera to get engaged. And to prevent that, Upasi Maharaj wouldn't allow her to go to the wedding. Now they were here, those relatives were still pushing the issue. It was a good match, it seemed. So Shireen Mai brought up the subject with Baba, saying, Baba, there's this boy, you know, the so-and-so family in Pune, they want their nephew. He's a nice boy. What do you think? It seems like a good arrangement. What do you say, Merwan? She didn't call him Baba, it was Merwan. He said, has anybody asked Mara what she wants? It's her future, after all. And it was a little shocking. Their attitude was, she's 16 years old. What could she possibly know? So somebody said, Mara, what do you say? She's very shy, sitting behind the shoulder of her sister. She said, I don't want to get married. What? Shireen, my sister, said, if not this man, should we find another for you, Mara? Would you like that? And very quietly she said, I never want to get married. Baba heard everybody say, what did she say? What? And Franny said, she says she never wants to get married. Baba said, now you've heard it. The issue is settled. Never bring it up again. That was that. A few days later, the refurbishing of this building was complete. So Baba had all the men pick up their luggage and bedding from the post office and march to the mess hall. He appointed spots for each of them at that time. He himself took the room here to the southeast. Pasi Maharaj's photograph was in there. They all relaxed, spread out. After some time, Gustaji noticed a lump under his bedding, and when he rolled it back, there was a snake there. Padre quickly killed it, thrown out. Baba said, better, let's just be safe, we'll go back to the post office. So they went back to the post office, and suddenly they were there talking about things again, plans in flux. Baba said, we can't stay here, this place is full of snakes and scorpions. We just spent 2 weeks cleaning up the place, and now Baba wants to leave. So they made plans to go. There was some discussion. Pendu suggested, you know, before he was with Baba, he was working for Gohir's father in Quetta. The nice climates, and Baba said, we'll go there. So, before they left, 2 or 3 days later, Baba had, let's go back to the previous one more. Baba had nervous, this is nervous, also obviously a nickname. He had nervous nail a signboard between 2 posts, and that was planted near the railway tracks by the post office here. On that board, Nervous had painted, according to Baba's direction, Meherabad. So Baba had named the place. His first few weeks were all about Baba putting his stamp on the property. They traveled up to Quetta, returned. Part of that return journey was walking across a desert area in Gujarat. Pendu almost died. Baba all the time was fasting on watermelon juice. He was fine. They returned to Meherabad on July 9th for 3 days. And for the first time in 5 or 6 months, Baba ate some solid food with the Mandali that evening, some rice and dal. He had been fasting that time. But Baba had explained, you know, a lot of those things he did, fasting and such, during that period, was all for the work of realization for his circle members. They went back to Bombay, stayed there. The work of publishing Pasi Maharaj's biography was going on then. A number of the Mandali were involved with that. Others were working this. In October, they took a walking trip from Bombay to Sakori, and this photograph was taken along the way during that time. Baba returned to Meherabad in early December to do a secret seclusion in the post office for the last 4 weeks of the year with only Gustaji and Beramji. In Nagar, only Adi and Gulmai were informed of his seclusion in the post office that time. They returned to Bombay in January, and while they were in Bombay, on January 16th, Gilori Shah dropped his body, which was taken to Meherabad, buried in his tomb without ceremony, as per his wish. 1924. The first trip to Iran happened. It was only a few days. They returned to India, traveled through North India, and in mid-March, Baba sent all the Mandali back to their homes. And for the only time in his life as Meher Baba, he traveled alone from Itarsi in North India, returning to Ahmednagar during the last week of March. Does everybody know what a gamela is? Okay. Baba told Adi to inform the Mandali to gather at Meherabad. A gamela is a steel bowl, a large steel bowl, looks like a wok. That is what the laborers in India use to carry material on their heads. This next phase of life with Baba at Meherabad became known facetiously as Gamela Yoga. They spent the first days then demolishing what was left of some of the remaining structures from the military camp, which were mostly in this area between the road and the railroad tracks. The grounds were leveled, the rubble was cleared. Then Baba directed the construction of a small room for himself about 150 feet east of the road, here. It had rock walls 16 inches thick, a high ceiling, windows set low on each side wall, and a door in the front. They hired a mason from Ahmednagar and the old carpenter from Arangan with a few of his crew to do the woodworking. The Mandali worked as the laborers, hauling the rock, mixing the mortar. Baba also worked alongside, was very particular that the work should get done quickly. They didn't have animals. All of this thing of hauling things was done. There was a small version of a bullock cart, so they would pull that. And that's how the labor was done. A typical day from that period would start at 5 a.m. The Mandali would wake up, and for 2 hours, they had to do prayers in their respective religions, according to their respective religions. This wasn't a spiritual exercise per se. Baba wanted them to do that, and he was using their connections for his own, to their religions, for his own work. Breakfast at 7, tea without milk, weak tea without milk, and bakri. Work till about noon. It was the summer, the hot months, so it would be very hot by noon. They would break for lunch. Lunch was a cooked vegetable and bakri. Rest, take a bath, wash clothes. 3 o'clock, more milkless tea. Then they would recite an early version of the 7 names of God for some time. Recite, I should say, would chant that together. More work, supper, more cooked vegetables, bread, bakri. Once in this kitchen, Padre waved a piece of bakri in front of my face and said, "This is my wonder bread, mister." That's what he ate all those years. In the evening, maybe Adi would play sitar or harmonium to accompany Baba while he sang. Baba might tell anybody to sing, and it wasn't like you had a choice. He oftentimes liked the people who couldn't sing to sing more than he liked the good singers. More volume? There's another issue about the diet. Baba was considerate. You know, he said, a lot of you men aren't used to this hard physical labor, so you need to supplement your diet. So eat 2 or 3 almonds a day also. The Hindu Mandali were still particular. They had that habit. So their kitchen was separate from the men of the other religions. And Baba allowed it because he knew that unity, this feeling of oneness, had to be something spontaneous from them. It couldn't be forced. So he allowed that for some years. And he allowed the Hindu Mandali to celebrate their festivals, holy days, and really encouraged them. And at the same time was indifferent to the festivals of the men from the other religions. Why did he do that? His purpose was to magnify and aggravate any unspoken deep feelings that the men might have, of any religious resentments. And in that atmosphere, they would be forced to say something, and they felt it and would speak up, and Bob, oh, is that right? You feel like that? And then in that way, he could show them what they had and wipe that out. But the next festival was Ram's birthday, which they celebrated on April 13th. And the next day, the Mandali with Baba fed about 1,000 poor people there around the Jopti at Meherabad. After that, the next day, the work went on. They had to construct a wide veranda on the 4 sides of the Jopti because people were starting already to come to see Baba. The word was out that Baba was there, and they would visit him. So that wide veranda that is not to us very big now was at least some shaded space in the summer where those people could be. That work was going on. At the same time, Baba had some of the men work refurbishing this, the 4th building left over from the military camp, the bathing room building. That work went on for some time. Difficult labor. One day, and Baba was strict, very strict during this period with the men. One day, Baba scolded Padre for slowing down his work pace. And without saying anything, sometime later, Padre showed Baba his palms like this. His palms are full of blisters and raw. And Baba said, "You men swear you sacrifice your lives for me? A few blisters on your hands and you're whimpering? This is not even the beginning. In this life, you will be constantly wounded, lingering in that state till you give up the ghost. You have no right to complain. Allow me to cut you inch by inch till death. That would be bravery." Now, the average person, they would say, you know, my feelings are kind of hurt. Maybe I'm not fit for this. But for Padre, that was poetry. And we think, how is this practical if Baba wanted to get this physical labor done at Meherabad? Why did he pick the 2 hottest months of the year? But the 2 hottest months of the year to do hard labor for the Mandali was exactly perfect for Baba's work. He wanted to create that environment where their patience would be tested. And in that, of course, naturally, they would lose their temper with each other, argue, fight, say hurtful things. To the point where one day Baba said, "I'm passing 2 orders. This is enough of this. First order, every morning, each of the mandali has to touch the feet of every other one and say, "You are my brother." And the second order is, if anybody speaks sharp words, criticizes somebody, I should be informed, and I will personally go and touch the feet of the offender. Barso, who was with the Mandali at the time, one of the more orthodox Muslim followers of Baba then, spoke up and objected. He said, "Baba, I can't follow the first order. It is against the Shariat of Islam." Baba said, "I'm not asking you to put your head on anybody's feet, just touch their feet." But Barso, as he was, he argued against it, and Baba just said, "Okay, for you, just shake their hands." Baba turned to Ramju and said, "Have you got any objection? Does this violate your Shariat?" He said, "I don't see that the orders violate Shariat, but I can never follow the second order." Baba said, "Why not?" He says, "I can never touch your feet." Padri and Nervous also agreed. How could they do that? Baba explained to them, all the Mandali, that this was his order. They had to follow it. That was the condition. Padri Nervous accepted that, but Ramju was still stubborn about it. He pulled Ramju aside and said, "Why are you doing this? You don't want to take my order?" Ramju said, "You are my master and I revere you. How could I ever let you touch my feet?" He says, "If you revere me," Baba said, "you won't follow my order? How is that revering me?" "Baba, I don't like you to touch my feet." Baba said, "You're here with me. Where is the question of like and dislike?" Ramji said, "Baba, it would break my heart if you touch my feet." And Baba said, "Maybe it would break my heart if I don't touch your feet." Anyway, Baba said, Baba had made his point with Ramju, and he said, "Okay, you're exempt from the second order." On April 23rd, there was some discussion. Now that Baba had a permanent seat as a master, he should have an appropriate flag to mark his seat. So there was discussion there. And the Hindu said, "Yes, of course. Everyone knows that the seat of a spiritual personality is marked by an orange flag, so it should be an orange flag." Ramju objected, saying, "Orange is the color of the Hindus, and if I might say, a bit garish. Green. Green is a nice color. Green, it should be green." And the Hindu Mandali said, "That's your Muslim color. Why should we agree to that?" And the Parsis and Irani said, "We don't like either of those colors." So Baba settled the issue by saying the flag will be of 7 colors. The bottom will be red, and the top will be sky blue. And about the other 5, you argue amongst yourselves. So it was settled that day. And that day, Dina Talati, so the first flag for Baba, Dina Talati was the mother-in-law of Sridhar Kelkar, our current trust chairman. That evening before sunset, Baba's flag was planted, raised on a pole near the Jopti for the first time. The next day, Padri, who was the supervisor of the labor, being Padri, said a few curt words to someone. So Baba came and touched his feet. Nervous was standing next to Padri, and Baba quickly reached over and touched his feet. Nervous was shocked and became very emotional. He started weeping. He said, "I have to leave. I have to leave here. I can't stay here under these conditions." Baba said, "I touched your feet of my own accord, not because you made any mistake. I wanted to do that." Nervous was adamant. He said, "Baba, how can I go on? You might do anything at any time. How can I? I have to go away." Baba said, okay, should I give you some money to travel? Now, about a week before, there was a big issue because one of the Hindu Mandali had asked Baba for money for a fare to go visit his mother. And Baba was really irritated, so angry that he passed an order at that time that nobody should ever ask him for money to travel to visit their family. Why the hell were they here if they wanted to go and be with their family? So, of course, that order was there. Nervous said, Baba, I don't need to take any money from you. Baba said, with no money, how will you travel? Nervous said, well, I have these gold-plated buttons. I'll just pawn these in Ahmednagar and get some money. The buttons used to be in the old days, the old-fashioned button system. The buttons were sewn on a cord in a line, you know. Baba said, gold-plated. Took Nervous's buttons. Nervous said, it's okay. I'm going. Baba said, okay, you can leave under 2 conditions. You have to beg for your food, and you can never steal or even borrow anything. Nervous agreed, okay, I'll follow your orders, I just can't stay here. The Nervous turned to walk away, and Baba said, one more thing, wherever you go, I will follow. I thought, you know, a metaphor of omnipresence or something, whatever. So Nervous began walking away, and he realized that Baba was right behind him. So then he increased his pace, and Baba stayed right with him. And then he began to run as fast as he could, and Baba was right there with him. And he finally realized the humor of the situation and laughed. And they came back. And Baba said, why did you get so emotional? Baba, you bowed down to me for no reason. I bowed down to you not because of any error that you had committed, but yet you were not faultless. Your fault was that you thought you were not faultless. And in order for you and everyone to realize that you all are not faultless, I touched your feet. And Baba said, but I will take away the faults of all of you. No. On April 30th, Gulmai brought a new article of clothing for Baba. You know, she wanted him to have something special. He dressed like most of the other men there. After all, Babajan had her old blanket, and Sai Baba had his dirty old rag left from his master's dhoti, and Pasi Maharaj had his gunny sack. But she brought something nice for Baba. That was the first time that Baba wore the long sadra. Those early ones were bigger. They had more material, which was a little awkward for Baba, so he requested them gradually to be smaller in size, and that's now what we have seen in the rest of Baba's life. Began on that day, April 30th. That same day, an Irani man from Bombay had come. He had met Baba at Manjli Mim, and he wanted to stay also in Baba's ashram. So he had arrived. Baba greeted him in a conversation. In Iran, what did you do? A farmer? Orchards. Yes, orchards, Baba, yes. You know orchards, Baba? You could do orchards here. You have plenty of space. An orchard and its fruits could sustain your whole ashram here. It would be, you think? And you have these men here, they have plenty of idle hours left in the day yet. You could just, they don't, young men, you should put them to use. Good idea, Baba says. You're the director of agriculture. So he became the director of agriculture. So after that day, they began that work. That was all to this area south, where now the men's cemetery is there in front of what now is the Pilgrim Center. That was where the orchard was. They had also been planting a garden all along around the Jopti. They wanted a nice atmosphere around Baba and a pleasant atmosphere for the people who would come to see Baba there. Pits had been dug on both sides of the Jopti where they planted some flowering shrubs. Other things were planted there. It was a nice garden for some years. They had also at that time finished that wide veranda around the Jopti, all of broken flagstone pieces, not nice new things. Whatever scraps were left from the military camp, and then Rustam, who was living in town with his family, would be responsible for transporting materials out. Bob was very frugal. He only took the broken Farsi that they could find in Nagar. Under very strict conditions could a bullock cart be used. And invariably Rustam, who was a little more spontaneous, would make some mistake, not follow Baba's orders to the letter, and be reprimanded often. So that work began. Here near the well, they had to make sluice areas, water pits, water channels, dig pits for the trees. A fence was put all around this area, barbed wire fence. There was a gate up here that was done here in front of the Jopti. The fence was here, like this, up to here, just east of Galori Shah's in the well, down to here and around this area. And the Jopti garden had a separate fence. This was to keep the animals out. That was all done during that period in early May. Behind here, one thing they planted was just a banyan sprig, because Baba's bathwater would run out there off the end of the veranda. His little bathing room they built for him was set up with simple bamboo sheets just behind the Jopti. The only thing still alive today from the original garden is that banyan tree there that has grown into the largest tree at Meherabad, a huge canopy that covers that whole area now. Originally watered by Baba's bathwater. Baba wanted to go in seclusion into the Jopti. So he directed screens to be put on the windows on each side so he could keep it cool during the summer evenings. So on May 7th, he went into seclusion there for the first time, fasting, and he added a new element to his seclusion, silence. But after just a day or so of silence, Baba spoke again and said, "This body is not holding up. It's not what it should be." And he said, "It's not due to bad health. It's the burden of this work." It was as if now that Baba had the first permanent seat at Meherabad and a real solid place, he grappled with the spiritual inertia of the age for the first time. And it required immense effort on his part to affect any movement. So that first period of silence was only that one day or so. But he did stay in silence till May 15th. One evening after that, Baba said he wanted to play hide and seek with the mandali. He said, "I'm going to hide. You all stay in the mess quarters. I'm going to hide. Masaji will tell you when I'm ready and you find me. I'm not going to leave. I won't go anywhere outside of Meherabad. I'll be here. You find me." So Masaji informed the men. They looked everywhere, including into the well. They couldn't find him. And they said, "Well, you know, Baba says something. He might do anything. He probably went to the village or maybe went up the hill or something." Anyway, they gave up. Masaji took them all to the Jopti and unlocked the door. And there Baba was inside. Baba walked out and said, "You see, it's the nature of the mind. You saw the lock on the door and you assumed I can't be there. You just assumed I would do something and you didn't pay attention to what I said. It's like that within you. You look for me everywhere outside, but I'm really deep within you. If you want to find me, I'm only to be found within you. Remember to always listen to what I say." Fun lesson for them. Upasi Maharaj's birthday was going to be celebrated. I'm done. That's the end of the story?
No,
Man. Completion? This is impossible to tell the story. But there's no time for this, so I'm sorry. Pardon? It just goes on and on. What can I tell you? I can give you 5 more minutes and try to finish 1924 summer months. That's it. Is it okay? Okay. I'll never get close to silence. No. Not possible. Not possible. So Baba went. The important thing about this period is the summary of the first 2 months there at Meherabad, the real intense time. Baba went back into seclusion, but Upasi Maharaj's birthday was to be celebrated on the 20th. This time, Baba would be in seclusion during that celebration, so he had probably put a screen door in the front of the Jopti. Mera and her mother came, along with Baba's Aunt Daula, for the first time. They stayed in the bathing quarters. They were the first residents of Meherabad at that time. So they were there for that celebration. While Baba had just entered seclusion for that second time, Nervous went to Ahmednagar. And Adi's father said something rude to him. Nervous came back, and Baba, being Baba, you know, what happened there? Oh, well, it's a conversation through the screen door, directing all the preparations for the birthday celebration. Found out that Kaikushu had said these things. Called Adi, said, your father, again, he insulted one of my mandali. If he's speaking rude, insulting my mandali, he's doing the same to me. I'm going to leave this place. You tell Rustam I'm going to take his car and go up north. He should keep it ready. Started taunting. Rustam liked nice things, you know, he liked a nice car, so Baba was giving him this thing about his car from time to time then. The birthday celebration happened, went on. 23rd, Baba came out of seclusion. Rustam showed up, and their cousin Sarosh, his sister, was being married that evening, and Rustam asked Baba's permission for Adi to come to the wedding, to attend the wedding. There was a standing order then for the men who were staying with Baba at Meherabad. They couldn't shave or cut their hair. So he said, you know, and looks how he looks, Baba, and can he at least shave and cut his hair? With this, to Baba, yeah, he gave them permission, but it was obvious that there was more importance given to this social event than Baba's wish. And this irked Baba. The next day he started sending notes to Rustam. Rustam came out that day. Baba was after him. You're like this, you're like that. And Rustam, who had a short fuse anyway, went off, said something. One of Baba's other mandali were there. He got into their car. Told all the mandali, you pile into the car as many as you can, so many that the springs were sagging, you know. He said, we're leaving. Gulmai was there, and she pleaded with Baba, please don't leave, and she started weeping. Rustam then, seeing the situation himself, came to Baba, apologized, please, I bad temper, I lost my head. Baba said, there was some discussion. Baba said under 3 conditions, and the last one was, you tell your father he has to sign the property over to Adi or Gustaji for me to stay. Rustam was sent in to negotiate these terms with his father also. Kaikushu wasn't against Baba being there, but he wasn't used to this kind of, you know, master thing like this. Gulmai, she would do anything, but he had his work to do and different things. So Rustam went in and informed his father, and his father made a comment. You know, Adi had referred to his father as a loud-thinking man. If you knew Adi, he was also occasionally a loud-thinking man. So Kaikushu said, "Does Baba think so little of me that he wants me to just sign the property to Adi's name? Doesn't trust me?" So of course, how could that not, Baba extracted every little bit of information from these people, and how could he not find that out the next day? And of course, there was more fireworks. And he was continuing to taunt Rustam, "Keep your car ready, I'm going to need it, I'm going to drive up north." And then Baba could have had a car from anyone. No, not anyone, but there were a number of people who had automobiles even then, and he could have found one. No, he wanted Rustam's car, and he wanted Sarosh to drive it. Okay. They were all living in Kushu quarters, a joint family. Sarosh's father, during the last few years, had become swayed. It was easier to follow the path of resistance to Baba's way and go along with the social conditions in the community than to be in favor of Baba. And Sarosh's father had become against Baba by that point. There was so much propaganda against Baba at that time. And they would read, it's published, it's got to be true. He's just a guy there sitting in the desert. This has got to be true. This is a paper, and people would take that. What Baba was doing was using this family with their very close connection to him to get all of this out. And so one day then, towards the end of the month, Sarosh was called. "This is it, we're leaving. We're going to leave the property. Now, at least." Baba said, "Rustam, bring your car." And there Sarosh was standing there, sheepishly. "Baba, my father didn't give me permission to go." Baba says to the Mandal, "You see this? Should we stay in a place where Sarosh's father treats us like this?" And there was a resounding chorus of "Nay" from the Mandali, and this one was made to leave. So eventually they left, but it was all about them, that family, because initially there were only those people, the Gulmai Kaikushu family and their nephew Sarosh, who followed Baba in Ahmednagar. That was it. And they bore the brunt of it, being in between. The issue was this: Baba, I am God. I've got a limited time to fulfill this mission. The day of Ram's birthday, Baba stated that year, "I have a great mission to fulfill in my life. When I come here permanently, the atmosphere of this place will be greatly elevated, spiritually than materially. Humanity will appreciate it and know it." So, good enough. All right. Okay, that's it. Sorry. No time.
Just, yeah, definitely standing ovation. Wonderful work, and wonderful, Peter. I've been told that Peter's working on a film. It's going to be a 4-part film about Meherabad, so we'll have more of this from Peter. Thank you. And now we're going to have a wonderful